Welcome to The Riff. Today, Jeremy and Justin sit down to talk about your edge and what to do when you lose it. Makes me wonder if I still have my edge. I think I do. Well, at least after this episode, I'll know what to do if I lost it. We hope today is helpful. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to another episode of The Riff, and I am with, well, let me just start by saying this. When Justin is not on the program, we get very grumpy emails.
Oh,
You are demanded
listen,
by our Riff
I have
followers.
told my mom, stop emailing you.
She could be gruff.
I understand. And I'm going to...
Kathy has an edge to her.
I'll work with her, okay? I'll let her know. I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. But we are glad you are here. And Justin, our listeners are glad you are here as well today.
I'm glad I'm here. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, today, what are we doing today? On The Riff, because we promise our listeners we will never spend too much of God's given time prepping for this show.
No.
And to this date, we have been faithful to that core.
Very faithful.
Very faithful.
So today, you shared a pretty cool piece.
Time out. I'm sorry.
What?
I'm interrupting, and I'm trying not to.
No, it's fine.
But I was in Montana last week with my friend Kevin Gear. Now, it's going to come back around and talk about you. So
great.
So don't poo-poo this.
Okay. Because I thought, I don't want to talk about Kevin. I don't know Kevin well. I met him once.
He's a great pastor in Kalispell.
Great pastor.
Yep. And he's a Jeep guy. He talked me out of getting a Ford Bronco Sport.
I don't understand that. I guess that's a deal up north, right?
Montanans think that this faux Montana type of vehicle would be not cool. But anyway, he does a podcast. I'm not supporting it, Life and Gear. I'm not supporting it. But he does a podcast with someone he's worked with for many years, and the guy's name is Justin. And how ironic is that we both have a podcast with a guy named Justin? Thought that you would be tickled to hear that.
And I am.
Sorry for interrupting. Well, not really. I'm glad I did.
I'm glad you shared
anyway,
that.
let's keep going.
That's going to change my day.
Yeah.
Woe
to the people who skip the first 3 minutes of this episode and miss out on things like that.
No kidding.
Yeah, but let's go.
No kidding.
Yeah. We had a staff retreat. That's what you were saying.
You shared some stuff at the staff retreat.
Yeah, I did.
And it was great.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So I thought maybe we could sit down and you could talk to maybe more than just the staff about it, because I think it's very applicable to pretty much any facet of life. I think it was excellent, and I want to walk through that.
One, we took it was a 19-hour retreat.
It was almost 24.
Went some windy roads down to Castle. We had a awesome North Point family who said, "Hey, take the team to some cabins that they had down there," and we had a great time getting with the team. And we have a good team. Each of our campuses, Dream Center, they were able to join us, and I just love spending time with them. But one of the things we did, we talked about, okay, we're going into, as we prep for some of the fall events, and obviously we're excited. Some of the things that are such a big deal that we just experienced, like water baptism, these are things that we've been planning for a long time. And so it's really cool to get together with the team. And one of the things I wanted to talk about is, what they're doing is make an impact. Now, I wanted to share this with even all of our volunteers and those who might not be volunteering in a church setting, but you still work and you work hard. And so talked about a really, I would say, an abstract story in Scripture. To be honest, not a story in Scripture that I, like, at first blush feel like, man, this one's speaking to me. But it's just, so random story, 2 Kings chapter 2. There's this dude who's out, says they're out chopping trees with an axe, as you do.
Oh, right. I don't.
No,
I don't.
I don't either.
No, I have someone else chop my trees.
Do you?
Yeah.
Jamie?
No, we're not a chopping
Girls?
family. No.
Oh, okay.
No, yeah, it's more of like Haverty's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
We get most of our lumber and our furniture.
One of my most scary injuries was chopping carrots once. So
really?
I'm not even going to chance it with a tree, with a full-blown tree. Like carrot's a mini tree.
When was that?
It was on stage.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. Because I was like, there's a moment. Yeah. You've cut yourself on stage before.
Yeah, no, it was a bleeder. It was a bleeder.
Rough.
But kept going, man. Grace of God.
I know.
So, and people in the front row, we gave them a little bit of bleach. They're fine too. So anyway, so these in 2 Kings chapter 6, guys are chopping trees. I don't know all the details. All it says in Scripture is the guy's iron head axe the axe portion, the iron part of the axe, goes flying off of his stick and lands in the Jordan River. But I don't know if you've ever been golfing. Have you been golfing? Water hazard?
Listen, yes.
Have you ever found the water hazard?
I can't get it off the tee.
Right.
It's embarrassing.
Well, I've been able to get off the tee straight into the drink, as you would say.
Okay. All right.
Now, if I'm playing, and I'm not paid to play or anything like that, if I can wait out and find my ball, it's not a penalty. It's just a free little toss back into the dry land,
Okay.
and then we go. This is one of those middle of the drink type of axe losses. So it says it goes flying in the air, lands in the water, and and they can't find it. And so it says this guy begins to be desperate and begins to scream. He says, man, I've lost my axe head. It's in the middle of the river. And he says, and it's a borrowed axe. So I don't know. Father-in-law, I don't know who he borrows this from. He borrows an axe. And his first thought is, oh my goodness, not only did I lose this thing, I'm not going to get it. It's not even mine. So then it says Elisha, the man of God, is beckoned to this tragedy, this scene of the accident. And so he begs Elijah for intervention. Elijah prays, and this iron axe head comes floating to the top of the water. And it says, then he grabs his axe and everyone's happy. So bizarre story. I don't know if there's ever a Veggie Tale on that one. I never had preached on that one on the weekend, but sharing with the staff, the important thing that I wanted for the staff to walk through is just some of the parallels. And it probably has nothing to do with the interpretation of what it meant to that day. But the parallels for our day are simple as man, we're all trying to chop something down. We've got big things that we're trying to accomplish, right? For a church, for North Point, whether it's launching a campus, whether it's working it to get a second service so that people could now volunteer and then experience in the same weekend, which is vital to a campus. Whether it's finding the next campus, whether it's building this team, building this program at the Dream Center. And with our myriad of teammates, it's like, okay, hey, we're all chopping something. We're working hard. And sometimes you're chopping and you're working so hard. And the next thing you know, you've lost your edge. And I don't know what causes us to lose our edge. Is it just exhaustion from doing something good? It doesn't. Sometimes you lose your edge not even doing something bad. You're doing the right thing, but just doing it enough, you lose your edge. Sometimes it's an email. Sometimes it's an attitude. Sometimes it's an insult. Sometimes it's just a lack of seeing the purpose of what you're doing. And I know even outside of a church setting, that could be true. Maybe you're trying to get your business up and going, or you're trying to instill values in your kids. You're trying to get this relationship to work. You're trying to climb out of debt, and you're chopping and you're chopping and you're chopping. And then I don't know what it is, what discouraging, what unexpected bill, what unexpected phone call, whatever it might be. All of a sudden you realize I don't have my edge anymore. The thing that I was relying on to be able to remove this big obstacle in front of me, I no longer have at my discretion. And then the temptation is to just take what you have and keep chopping. But you can't chop down a tree with just the handle of an axe, right? And you can work 10 times as hard and you're never going to be able to have the results. And for me, in those moments with the staff, and what I would say even for those who are listening, what is it that you're trying to attempt and you know you don't have the edge to be able to take it on, and you're swinging and you're swinging and you're swinging, and you realize you don't have what it takes to knock this thing down in front of you. And that's when we should be desperate, just like the dude in 2 Kings chapter 6. Say, God, you've got to bring my edge back. I don't have the ability to get rid of the thing, this obstacle in front of me. I need you to come and bring back this edge that I've lost. And we invite God's Spirit in my family, in my parenting, and my ability to be a blessing to the person I'm married to, and my finances, saying, God, can you bring back to the surface the thing I thought I lost? Is it possible you can do that? And then the whole point of it is, man, because there's a lot more trees to chop. And so the moral of the story is tie that axe head back on and start swinging again, because there's a whole lot more work to do. So that's kind of what we talk about in the staff, and just some parallels that I would hope could be applied to anybody. But
good.
Yeah.
Tell me about a time that you lost your edge.
Well, I would feel, I would say there was a time personally where I felt like, I was in college, and I remember a time feeling like, okay, there were other people around me that seemed to be super excited about what they would use the words called to do. And we've done an episode on calling and how that could be confusing to people, that sense of calling. But bottom line is they felt like they had an assignment from heaven upon their life. And I didn't feel like I had that. And I wanted one. I just didn't, I felt like, who am I to feel like heaven literally has an assignment for me? And some people just seem so confident in that. And I remember praying about that. And I'm just saying, God, I don't know what I want to do with my life. And now looking back, it's like, man, I feel like I've just got this stick that I'm swinging. But saying, God, if you would equip me, God, if you would provide the tool, if you would give me the edge to be able to do something significant, man, I'll take a swing at it, right? And I felt like that's when God kind of helped me just formulate what my purpose, at least my understanding of it is okay, just start swinging at being a voice of encouragement. Put yourself in a position where people need encourage and take a hack at it. There have been times where, as a parent, Leanne and I we were over our head trying to figure out how to be the most helpful parents to Janaea, our oldest, who was having a bunch of physical challenges. And I mean, we're swinging everything that with every bit of power we could. We're trying anything we can, every program, every doctor. And remember sitting down on the couch thinking, okay, God, you've got to meet us here. We've got nothing left in our tank. And it'd be great if you heal our daughter. It'd be great if you can provide medical help too, or financial help for us to be able to have the medical help. But ultimately, you just got to give us our courage back. You've got to give us hope back. And I felt like those are times where, we got our edge back. And it didn't mean everything was changed, and it didn't mean it was a miracle the way we thought it would be a miracle in that moment. But for us, this new perspective was a sharpened edge. I think of times at church where it could be a big thing like a campus. We've had to close a campus because of a lease situation, and we've had to close a campus because just a lack of impact. Mm-hmm. And both of those were challenging. And you're like, okay, man, if we're a multi-site church, this is part of the strategy of what God's called us to do as a church. It's like, okay, God, is when we chopped a lot of trees just to open that thing, man, we've lost our edge. Could you give our edge back? It could be anytime there's a transition of where you think you're going to go, and it could be a personnel thing where you just feel like, okay, man, it could be a discouraging time. And you just say, okay, God, help me to get my edge back. All that to say is the edge for me has rarely been a change of circumstances. It's usually been a change of perspective, where God helps me see, man, this is what I'm doing. I've been relying on me. Let me surrender the control. And that's been helpful for me.
I think that the perspective thing, I think that the thing that made so much sense to me when you were going through this the first time that I've heard this, you said something about losing that axe head, and you said something about realizing that you can't do it on your own, but also realizing that there's a power inside of you, right? And you said you've got to find this space between no confidence and Kanye. Which I am getting a tattoo of that. So but it's true, right?
There's a fine line.
You cannot live in this area of like self-loathing, right, and like only Jesus because I'm trash.
Right.
You also can't live in Kanye where you're like, I am the greatest thing ever. Thanks, Jesus.
Right.
There is that humble in-between struggle of, it's just this gray area of I am a child of God. I also am dependent. Right. There's this. So I think that there's that piece to where you've got to lose the edge. So you talked about every time that you're swinging and you lose that head, you learn a lesson, right? Mm-hmm. And you talk about that. I mean, even with the campuses, yes, those two campuses are no longer here, But to be honest, 4 campuses aren't here without those 2.
Right.
Right? Like the iron head came back to the surface. And when we grabbed that iron head again, it's like, okay, we learned a lot about chopping.
Yeah.
And maybe not where to, maybe how to. Let's go again. Right?
Yeah.
And probably we'll lose it again in some other way. Right?
100%.
So walk through how do you not just hope to get the axe head back, right? But how do you understand that there's a lesson to be learned in losing the axe head?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm not a lumberjack. I've attended. I know, not official.
Okay.
Never been paid. I'm more familiar with flapjacks than lumberjacks.
Okay.
But I've gone to Dolly Parton Stampede, and I've seen them and feel like I could do that.
100%,
right?
man. 100%.
So I feel like part of swinging an axe is you're gonna eventually you're gonna dull the blade, lose the blade, whatever it might be. Is eventually if we do significant things long enough in any capacity, and I'm not just talking about church stuff, I'm just talking about life stuff. There are going to be some significant swings and misses. There are going to be times where you feel like, man, we use the terms "my world fell apart." It doesn't mean the world fell apart. In this deal, it'd be like my axe fell apart. Okay, the very thing that I depended on my success to remove the obstacles in front of me is no longer working for whatever reason right now. So I think that's just going to happen. And if we are dependent on everything we try to do to continually succeed, then we will never attempt big things, right? And so what we have to be willing to do is say, hey, I'm going to attempt big things, not because I think I'm going to win, because I think God's called me to do it. And that's a big deal. So if you feel God's called you to be a foster parent, okay? Your measure of spiritual success is not on the GPA of that foster kid 5 years from now. It's not on any type of tangible deal. It is, did you do what God called you to do? Period. Were you a faithful steward? Were you loving? Were you kind? And we tend to grab a hold of the results and let results validate if we did the right thing. And I just don't see that in Scripture. Is Jesus was a miserable success, a failure if you look at the results, because he lost. It was all about he came to die and lost on a cross, an embarrassing, humiliating defeat at the hand of the Roman Empire and the Jewish religious tribe, right? But it wasn't about, do you win every battle? It's, do you do what God's called you to do? And ultimately, there's divine impact there. And so I just feel like from parenting to just your own, whatever battles you're facing in work, whatever, is understand there'll be times where you lose your edge. And when you're reminded that you need something more than you bring to the table, it's an invitation to rely on God. It's kind of like the gift of fear we talked about in a message once, is fear isn't really a bad thing. It can be a gift to invite God to give you courage in those moments, to realize, man, I'm over my head in this situation, but now, God, I invite you in. I totally surrender my own control, my own strategy, and God, use whatever you can, but I need your Spirit. So I think it's just recognizing our limitations. Like you said, we don't live in our limitations, but we recognize them, and then we're dependent on God's Spirit.
How do you get to the point? I mean, the only way you lose an edge is to use it. Right.
Yeah.
So how do you get to the point knowing that you're going to lose your edge?
Yeah.
Right? How do you personally get to the space to where it's like, I'm going to use my edge. I know I'm going to lose it, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'd rather burn out than rust out. I mean,
always said that.
You've always said that, right? I mean, but I really would. Like, we've only got a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And I mean, because not using your edge eventually, I think, will make it it will make it dull. I mean, because you've got to use it and sharpen it, use it and sharpen it, use it and sharpen it. Not using it eventually makes it ineffective as well. And so the goal is not to have this scarcity mentality, like, I can't fail, because then you'll rust out. So for me, I'm like, hey, we got a limited amount of time, we got a limited amount of opportunity. Let's go for it, right? Let's take a chance. Let's take a chance, calculate a risk, but saying, okay, meaning if God's put it in our gut, let's do it. So for me, I know I'm going to use this, and I shouldn't be surprised when I use it, it becomes less sharp. And so what I need to do is every day have rhythms where I'm sharpening the axe, where I'm saying, okay, God, today I'm projecting my day ahead on the beginning of my day, saying, okay, here's what I've got going today. God, I can't do this with my own strength. I need you to sharpen this axe today. This conversation that I'm anticipating, God, would you lead me? God, would you help me have your perspective? This task, God, we invite you to give us ideas and wisdom in these things. At the end of the day, sharpening my axe. What part of me got ahead of God's plan? What part of my mouth got ahead of God's wisdom? What part of, all these things that have to reflect, right? And so I think a daily habit of it, I think, so you got daily disciplines. I think you annually abandon. I think that'd be awesome. If you had the ability to one day every year, just get away and just reflect, right? I think that's helpful. Not everyone has the ability to do that, but maybe sometimes you don't even plan it and it plans for you. Like you ended up injured or hurt or sick and you've got a day on your back and you can fill it with Netflix or you can fill it with, hey, let me do some reflection. And I'm not anti-Netflix. I'm not anti-watching a game. But I'm just saying, if I have specific times where I'm intentionally sharpening the axe, I'm reading something, I'm listening to something, that'll be good. I mean, the old fable, you love fables. You love fables. Check out this fable.
I can't wait.
This one, it's my second favorite. My first one's about a starfish. I'll tell you sometime. You can't save them all, or remind me that one. But it's about the guy who's new. He's just, man, he's built like a Greek god. And he's got, he looks like a lumberjack, and he's new at in this logging company. And first day, man, he's just chopping, and he is working so hard, and he's cutting down more trees than anybody else per capita, and he's just going. By the end of the day, though, he's working hard, and you could hear chop, but the trees aren't falling down. And the moral of the story of this fable, Justin, is that he never stopped and sharpened the axe. And you can work 5 times as hard and have 1/5 the produce. Come on, somebody!
You gotta sharpen it.
Yes,
you got to.
You gotta stop. What an epic failure for a logger!
Mercy.
Stop and sharpen your axe.
You gotta sharpen it.
See, I'm telling you, that fable.
It's gold.
That's gold. It's gold. Let me tell you about the starfish one.
How do you get to a spot? It's probably my last question, but how do you get to a spot where you don't get jaded or you don't get upset when you lose the edge, right? Because even if you get the edge back, the edge is a different edge than what you had, right? So there's a lot of times in my life, I look back on that, and when you're doing that teaching, I'm like, man, what a loss for me of focusing on the axe head that was. Like it served a purpose. And now I'm like measuring myself on like this some like ideal and not measuring where I was. Like that axe head took me a long journey.
Right.
And now no longer I need that one. There's going to be a new one that rises up. I'll attach it. Let's go again. But there's so many times in my life where I'm like, no, I want that back. Like no, that helps. That gets me through it. So how do you get your mindset into a space to where it's like, that was helpful, and losing it was helpful, and the loss is a lesson, right? Like it's not necessarily, yes, it's a failure, yes, but it's gonna move you forward. So how do you get into that mindset?
Yeah, I mean, I think baseball players have that idea with a bat. Like, they'll have a lucky bat, right? And I've hit 7 home runs with this bat. And then when they break a bat, it's a big deal. I've seen the movie The Natural. It's a big deal when you break a bat, right? And because like that bat, and they have all this mental mojo to it. But we get comfortable with the tools that got us here. Right?
Yes.
And so when we lose that, we mourn that. We're like, man, this is the lane I'm comfortable in. This is the tool. This is the strategy. This is the role. This is the position. And now I've got, for whatever reason, because of a promotion, because of a demotion, because of a transition, whatever, I'm in a new zone. I've never parented a 21-year-old before, whatever it might be, right? You got a new lane. It's going to have new tools. I do think whenever you feel like you're on edge, that usually means you've lost an edge. Okay. So as we think about that, that's probably a red flag of like, why am I so on edge right now? Maybe it's because I'm trying harder without the results. Right. So what do I do to be excited about getting it back, or getting edge back, is be wide open to be more committed to this next season than you were to this last season. So say, hey, I am willing, so I'm not dependent on my role. I'm not dependent on the process or the method. I'm mission driven. So if my mission is to have a solid relationship here, I've got to shed any of last season's tools maybe that aren't helpful. The things that were helpful for me in this last season, this relationship, might not be helpful in this next season. So I need to be totally pliable and say, okay, God, what if my mission is solid relationship here? If my mission is getting out of debt, if my mission is mobilizing a new team to launch a new campus, whatever it could be in any of our settings, what is the mission? What are the tools needed? And it might not be the tools that got you there in the first place. And so I think just being open to it, being humble about it, could be helpful.
That's so good. I feel like just an insight into you.
Okay.
You ready for this?
Oh man.
I feel like the core of your teaching is always open hands.
Yeah.
It always is. It really is. At least that's what I interpret from you. Mm-hmm. Because I think that there's an essence to that, to where in every situation that you find, if you've got that open hand mentality, especially with this, with the axe head, with the edge, all of those pieces, you can then control what you can control. Yeah. Instead of trying to grab onto whatever it is, right, that is not really yours to begin with, right? Yeah. And I think that just this illustration in this story shows that so well. I think it was super helpful to the team. I hope it was. It was helpful for me, for sure.
Well, I do feel like if you got a lot of axes lined up and one of them is from God, don't grab the wrong axe, right? And that's what, if I'm trying to control something I'm not designed to control, God's biggest gift to me is he'll let me. And that's not a fun season. Yeah. And so attitude wise, if I look back and say, okay, what relationship in my life am I swinging away? And it's not effective. And I think that's a good question for everyone who's listening. What's something that you're attempting right now and you're spending a lot more energy, you're not having the success that you want to, and you're just not proud of it. You're not proud of the way it's going. You're not proud of the way you're doing it. Now, I'm not saying success means it's God and lack of it means it's not. But I'm just saying, there's an area in your life, relationship in your life where you're just swinging away and you just feel like, man, God's blessing isn't on this. My question would be, why are you going to keep swinging? How long are you going to keep swinging a broken axe? And say, man, just join that dude in 2 Kings 6. It says, I'm desperate. I need God to do something fresh in my marriage, fresh in my parenting, fresh in my finances, fresh in my whatever it might be. And if we all are like that and say, okay, God, interrupt our life. I do not want to go one day without your power. I don't want to lose my edge because the stakes are too high. There's a lot of big trees that need to come down. And if we want to be a voice of justice for those who don't have some, if we want to be able to help fill the gaps for the underserved and the most vulnerable in our community, if we want to be the type of people who are introducing other people to an experience with Jesus, those are some big trees that are going to be in the way, and we can't afford to do this without a sharp edge. So my encouragement to everybody listening is just figure out a one right now, just surrender that and invite Jesus. Say, Jesus, I'm desperate for your power, your spirit. And then every day, figure out daily disciplines, keep that edge sharp. And then when you lose it, man, don't keep swinging. Stop and invite God into the situation. So, good. Yeah. Hey, we've got an opportunity. If people are listening and they want to say, I've got a topic I want them to consider for a show. We're not guaranteeing we're going to do a show, an episode on it, but we'll consider it.
We'll consider it.
Send it in.
Send it in. On the show notes, you're going to see right there. You can click on it, and then it takes you to the Riff website page.
Boom.
Ask a question.
Yeah.
Click it.
Yeah.
Type it.
Submit.
Send it.
Is it send?
Submit it.
I don't know.
Just
No,
don't. Whatever button is there, you hit it. Yeah. Just hit it. Get it to us.
It'll get to us.
It'll get to us.
And thanks for listening. Hope you have a great week. And we'll come back at you next Monday. We'll drop another episode of The Riff. So have a good one. Have a good one is what I meant.
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Riff. We'll have a brand new episode every week, wherever you find podcasts.